Power Rangers is canceled. Must be Tuesday. And it is a Tuesday! Some good news.
Dawson's Rentals.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. So we have more news and updates on the Power Rangers reboot, and it's not great news. It's not necessarily terrible news in the sense that they didn't say we're shelving it forever and we're going to burn all of the tapes. I don't know what the tapes are, but apparently Power Rangers Solo is contained on the tape, and if they burn them, it's gone forever. I don't know where I'm going with this. So the news is the deal is no longer with Netflix and Power Rangers. They are no longer moving forward with the Netflix version of the reboot. They're going to be looking for somebody else to work with. And who knows what that means for the future. I think it's just kind of a symptom of what's going on with Hasbro right now, as they have very limited resources. They're not doing so well financially. You know, they don't really have a concrete Power Rangers team like they did in the very early days, which is why they're outsourcing the main toy line to Playmates, which is the news we talked about a little while ago. And I assume they might be trying to do something like this here. Like Jinsaku talked about this the other day, and I didn't make a video on it just because it's kind of like hearsay at the moment with that, and I'm like, let's wait for something more official, and this is kind of what happened, is the idea that wherever they go, they might just kind of try to be hands-off. Kind of like, just let them do it over there and we can get the money. Kind of like what maybe Sony should do. Be like, hey, MCU, just handle Spider-Man and just take the money. Just take the money. But it's like, no, let's do our Spider-Verse anyway. Like, seriously, it's like, if you were going to do that, you should have just held on to the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Anyway, that's for another time. Point is kind of like the idea of them just outsourcing everything and collecting a profit and being like less hands-on with their bigger plans, which is what might happen. Who knows? Who knows, guys? You know, it's been a very turbulent time. This is never a fun topic to cover because it's not great to see the franchise continue to be in purgatory, but also the comments are just never fun because it's all just negative stuff. And it's not like I'm trying to cast all this in a positive light. I just like to think I look at it from a more level-headed perspective. Like most fandoms nowadays, it's not just the Power Rangers fandom, but they paint whoever owns the company as if they're just a giant mustache-twirling villain that's out to attack them and out to attack the brand. And like it's an important cause. Like, these aren't important causes, guys. But anyway, the thing is that it's much more complicated. Like, there's different people at different levels, and they kind of paint it with this thing that like everyone at Hasbro that's evil just doesn't care about it. And that's the thing, is that there's been people at various levels that have cared about it at one point. I think our best position was around when they first bought it, around the Beast Morphers-ish going into Dino Fury era, where you kind of got closer to the possibility of a reboot, and I think they had more of a concrete plan. And the thing is, I think in regards to how they've handled everything, I think that it's not just one big mistake or one person that's like poisoning it or something. I think it was a series of unfortunate events. Not Lemony Snicket's one, but a series of unfortunate events. I think that it's like, in my opinion, equal parts some fumbles, some actual fumbles that Hasbro has made, but also some circumstances. Like I just mentioned, in that era where they kind of had a concrete plan, they were really doing the most to push forward at that time. Like, I think they really had plans that they could see clearly of what they wanted to do for the future, but then they had a change in leadership later, and when they had that change, Power Rangers and that project and that vision was no longer a priority. So that was a significant thing that changed, and that's kind of like out of the control of the creatives, like Entwistle and Klein and whoever in the hell was working on it or invested in it. You know, there's nothing they can do about that when your project is suddenly no longer a priority. Not to mention Hasbro's financial issues, which is like why it's reasonable it's not a priority. Like, I'm sure that there's people at Hasbro, both at the corporate level that are just looking at the dollar signs, and then people like on the creative level that are disappointed nothing's ever been able to happen. But when you're having financial problems, it makes sense to cut off like the D list for now. You know, that's kind of the thing, is people take it personally that they want to focus more on their bigger brands that they are partnered with or own, like Transformers or Star Wars. I mean, that makes sense, guys. It's the wars. I mean, if you came to me right now, Genie was like, you can only keep one franchise, the other one's erased. Star Wars, Power Rangers. Buy Power Rangers. It's the wars. It's the wars. Anyway, the point is that when it comes to the discourse on it, fans take it too personally. It's like, sometimes you have to put your business hat on and look at it like, yeah, the Power Rangers is in a not a great place. They've made some mistakes already. It's not a priority. They don't have the resources, which is why they're doing this. And also, I know I've brought this up so many times when we talked about this, and it sounds like an excuse, but it's kind of more of a reason, is I think people underestimated how much the pandemic put like a stop sign in front of the reboot. Because as I've mentioned, in terms of when they actually had momentum, when they originally wanted to do a movie, they were already cautious because the 2017 movie underperformed, and so they were already thinking like, Power Rangers movies have never been box office like guaranteed gold, but we see the potential here, but they were still cautious. And then the pandemic changed the way that people go to the movies. I mean, obviously now we go to the movies more normally, like we don't have to, you know, be apart and you don't have to wear a mask and all that stuff, but you know what I mean, like we can go to the movies more normally. Like, it's more normal to say like, hey, let's go to the movie Saturday. It's not like, hey, let's go to the movie Saturday. I'm like, I didn't know you wanted me to die, But what I mean is, like, the way people view going to the movies. You know, they only will go for big events. I mean, you see now the conversation has changed about, like, that's a whole other topic too, of like, if a movie doesn't immediately make a gajillion dollars, like, it's a failure. So that's like a whole other conversation. But you do see the fact that there are some movies that people will write off as a streaming movie. Even if they're interested in seeing it, they know that either it's going to come to digital in a few weeks, or regardless of how long it takes, I don't care about seeing it in a theater. And I think Power Rangers would definitely fall in that territory. So you already have a franchise that's nowhere even in the neighborhood or the same state as a guaranteed box office hit before the pandemic, and then after the pandemic, it's only like huge things that are like big brands or like a 1 in a million thing or a huge event like Barbenheimer that sets things off. So I think people underestimate how much that killed their momentum. I think they just became really indecisive. I think that's kind of what happened in that realm. I think afterwards it was a series of other things and leadership changes. But I think when that period happened, when they had to rework things over the isolation and stuff, I think that they just, when they had the momentum, I think it got killed by indecision. And that's what I think happened. But it's unfortunate. My bottom line with that is I think it's a more complicated situation. But anyway, so what does this mean for the future? What do I think? I mean, honestly, I feel like they should just take a break for a while. Like, I was a little bit surprised by this news in the sense that I had a feeling that it would take longer than before this. People were like, oh, it'll be in the next 2-ish years. I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be longer. I thought that the deal might hold, but it might be closer to 5 years or something, or 4 years. I thought it would be a while out. So I was like surprised, but not surprised. Like, and I've stated before, too, that I always knew that there was going to be eventually something, like whether it was this one or the next one or in 10 years, 20 years, that I don't think it's dead forever. But right now it says, that's the thing, is it says they're looking for new partners. But also, I don't know what to say, because I'm not sure, because I didn't expect the Hasbro news about Playmates. So like on one hand, I think that they're trying to find a way to outsource to make money somehow. But I don't think it's like a priority. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that they're coming down every day and be like, how can we make this happen? It's kind of more like, all right, how can we like just make some sort of money? And I think that's kind of the drive. I think it's like a B-list, D-list priority. And so I'm not sure, like, if they're actively searching because they want to somehow turn a profit, or they would be okay just letting it go for a while. I think that's what they should do, honestly. I think they should just leave it like periods of time that other franchises like Transformers and Turtles have had, where you might have the comics around, you have like the toys they're coming out with Playmates, you know, t-shirts or whatever, but it's kind of dormant. I think they should just take an extended break for a while and wait, because I think now is like the worst possible time to get something off the ground that's anything like a reboot series that they've been talking about. You know, in general, PR is a tough sell. We've talked about this, guys. Its reputation is terrible. It's actually hilarious how often I notice people using Power Rangers, like a comparison as a shorthand for like of poor quality. It's just funny that like that's one of the biggest uphill battles they face. So already, we've already covered this. They have terrible public perception. But even setting that aside, we're entering this period of oversaturation and a little bit of fatigue, and it's also like cool to hate on superhero content. And if this had actually somehow gotten off the ground back when they had momentum, I still think they would have faced an uphill battle, but they would have been in a better position, whereas now I think it would be met with the reaction of both like, oh, Power Rangers is lame as hell, and also like, oh, just more superhero content. So I think it's a terrible time right now. I think that they should wait. I think in general, because they're going to have to wait to find a partner and then get that partner to make something, it'll probably be at least 3-4 years. But I think they should wait at least maybe 5 years. I don't know, just wait. And just let everyone forget about it and just find this time. You need to find a time that's as close to perfect as possible where you can come back with something. Whether it's like a really awesome animated series that's like Voltron quality and people are like, oh man, the concept can be really cool. Or a reboot series that somehow just kind of works. It does make me wonder if, like, how cost-effective would it have been for them to keep the main show going? I still don't know why they kept it at the quality it was, because we got all those interviews with Simon Bennett that was like, oh yeah, Saban had, like, this Bible that, like, kept these weird chains on us. And then, like, when he was gone, like, why did we still use that? I don't think it was, I never thought it was Nickelodeon, just because if you see any of their other shows, they, unless it's in the pre-K programming, none of them behave like that. But anyway, the point is I'm curious because I feel like they shut everything down because they're like, okay, we're going to work on the reboot, and then just stuff hit the fan for the bazillionth time. And so I'm curious because it was kind of in a decent place where it's not like it was a hit or anything, but it kind of sustained itself, like really sadly, but it sustained itself. And I'm kind of curious, like, would it have been cost effective to have just kept that going? Because they had everything in New Zealand, they had all of the existing relationships and everything. If they would have just kept that going and then could have continued to make that version of the show, keep the hardcore fans happy while they figure out what they wanted to do. I wonder if now maybe they're regretting it. Maybe it wasn't cost effective. I don't know. But that's something to think about. And that also made me think, like, part of my idea about taking a break is just let people forget about it for a while and then make a comeback. Like, Power Rangers is back. But, like, most people don't know that Power Rangers is still on the air. Like, 8 or 9 out of 10 times, when Power Rangers was still airing, if you told them it was, they were shocked. You know, that it was still airing. Because for a lot of people, it ended with mmpr, which is why I always say, you know, people always think, like, well, me and my 5 friends like SPD, so why aren't they promoting that? Like, I'm exhausted, guys. I'm exhausted. Anyway, the point is that I don't think that if they'd kept the main show going, if that was possible, that would hurt the idea of the Power Rangers are back type of narrative. Like, I don't think, like, 99% of the population would not be watching it. I mean, in terms of, like, the older population. Like, there's still kids that watch it. And so, you know what I mean? I think the point is if they were to come back, if they were to keep the main show going as it were, and then come back in, like, 7 years with a reboot, and then they would say the Power Rangers are back, I think the lion's share of people would never realize that they never went anywhere. Like, remember that joke from Parks and Rec where Andy said, can you bring back Power Rangers? And it was still airing. That's the news for now. We're still, it's honestly in a lot of ways, like, not too different. We're still kind of in purgatory. I will be curious to see what happens, because I feel like we're in equally a position where it could take a long time, and this could be years before they even go find somebody because it's not a priority, or they could find somebody right away just because they want to make a little bit of money and try to figure out a way to generate something. But I think that they should take a break for a little while. At least wait for, like, the current situation is just not great. Like I said, Power Rangers is a tough sell, and it's going to be like an even harder sell. It's like the maximum level of difficulty right now. Like I said, because superhero properties are kind of in this, like, fatigue. Like, I think there's a little bit of fatigue, and then I think there's this kind of hate just happening. And if Marvel is having a tough time right now, then what chances do Power Rangers have? Like, the Z-List's got no chance. You know, you do have stuff like that's from indie stuff like The Boys and Invincible, but like Invincible, you have, like, good material to back it up. And I don't know, I was gonna say with The Boys, I read the comic, I think the show is a lot better. But, like, that's like a good show. That's a different story. The point is I don't think that you can compare people maybe wanting alternatives to, like, the big Marvel and DC, like, they wouldn't go for Power Rangers. They'd go for something like Invincible. Like, if you are looking for, like, I want superhero content, but I'm tired of Marvel and DC, you're probably going to go to something like Invincible or The Boys, and you'd probably laugh off Power Rangers. So, point is, I don't think it's a great time right now. I think that they're either going to let it be dormant, or they're going to find somebody maybe next year. But I think that they should just wait a little bit. I just think it's a bad time right now. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think, even though I'm scared to look at the comment section. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.